Hello learners, I welcome you all to the 30-second lecture for the course on International Investment Law and the Environment. In the past week and in this week and even in the next week, we'll be looking at some of the decided cases where an environmental issue was involved. So the case that we are going to discuss for this 30-second lecture is Glamis Gold versus United States. So this is very significant because the respondent, the host state, in this case is United States, a developed country. So we should know if a developed country was successfully able to defend its regulatory measure, right? So Glamis Gold is a Canadian corporation. So Canadian corporation had made investment in the United States, and then United States took some measures against which Canadian corporation filed a investment dispute. So in the very first segment in this video, we will be looking at the factual matrix of the case. Then in the second segment, we will be looking at some of the measures with regard to the procedural issues that was decided before the tribunal went into the merits of the case. So that also we will discuss in the second segment. So in the third segment onwards, we will be discussing about the substantial issues, whether there was violation of expropriation provision, whether there was violation of FET clause of NAFTA. So that is something that we will discuss from the third segment onwards. This is the structure of lecture number 32. So in the very first segment, like I told you, I'll be discussing about the factual matrix. So the essential, I'm only going to talk about the essential facts of the case. If you want to know more details about the factual matrix of the case, you can very well look at the award of Glamis Gold versus United case. And this case is little technical in nature because the case involves a mining project. So there are certain technical terms like backfiling requirements, open pit mining, and stockpiling and all of those things. So if you want to know more about it, you can anyway refer to the award. So we only going to discuss the bare facts of the case that we have to understand so that we can relate to how the merits of the case is decided. So the very basic facts are, this is a Canadian corporation, Glamis Gold. Glamis Gold is a very big corporation. They were involved in the business of exploration, development and operation, extraction of precious metals, gold, silver and other precious metal. Not only in Canada, they also had business operations in United States, they also had business operation in Latin American countries as well. So it's a very big company, and in fact the same company had done two more projects in the California desert itself in 1980s and 1990s. So they had already finished two projects where they had extracted precious metals. So now this will be the third project. So the third project was allotted to them, or they got the concession rights for mining gold and silver from again a desert area in California, in the southern California region. And this project was called Imperial Project because the project site was located within Imperial County. So Southern California has different counties, right? Riverside County, Imperial County and all those things. So the project was located within the Imperial County, so the project was called Imperial Project. So Imperial Project is again a big project, and the project term was from 1998 to 2017. So in the early 1987 itself, Glamis Gold started with the process of acquiring necessary rights and permits for the concession. In early 1990s, it was also granted certain rights to undertake exploration and all of that. So the project period was from 1998 to 2017. It was supposed to extract gold and silver. So the project sort of envisaged 3 open pit mines, and what Glamis Gold had initially planned to do was it will do backfiling of 2 out of the 3 open pits, and the third pit it will only do a partial backfiling. The reason that the Glamis Gold had stated for the partial backfiling is, it stated that if there's only partial backfiling for the third open pit, then it also paves way for future mining prospects as well. I mean, in future you can still undertake the mining activities, and also from the Glamis Gold perspective, it involves complete backfiling, involves a lot of expenses on its part. So What it had proposed was complete backfilling with regard to 2 pits, but partial backfilling with regard to the 3rd pit. This was a project that it had envisaged. So, I am not going into much more technical details. So, now there are many laws that are applicable with regard to this project. So, at the central level, you can see the US had a mining laws, and then there were many other laws that were also applicable. So, what are the laws that are applicable with regard to the imperial project that's been given to Glamis Gold? The first primary legislation that was applicable on Glamis Gold's project, the Imperial Project, was US Mining Law 1872. Even before this act was enacted, there was one more act, the Mining and Mineral Policy Act of 1970, that was also applicable here. The MMPA, the Mining and Minerals Policy Act, actually contains certain provisions with regard to protection of environment as well as conservation of resources. Subsequently, then Federal Land Policy Management Act was also passed in 1976. Federal Land Policy and Management Act declared that you have to maintain certain standards if you are going to use federal lands, and the standards actually tried to balance certain interests pertaining to such lands. So, what this particular legislation did was FLPMA, the Federal Land Policy and Management Act, it stated that it's not going to amend the mining law of 1872, but rather it will take certain exceptions so that undue degradation of lands are prevented. That is what FLPMA stated, that the Federal Land Policy and Management Act is not acting as an exception to the provisions of US mining law, but rather it will ensure that sufficient measures are taken so that undue degradation or unnecessary degradation of lands are prevented. So, in that context, we can see the FLPMA had established California Desert Conservation Area in the Southern California, so that the historical, environmental, biological and cultural significance of the lands are protected. Right. So, under CDCA, there were certain plans, those were called a CDCA plan. So, these were long-term plans for the management, use, development and protection of land in CDCA. So, one of the CDCA plan had established something called Indian Pass. Basically, the CDCA plan can identify certain area, and these area can be called as areas for critical environmental concern, areas of critical environmental concern. So, CDCA plan can identify areas of critical environmental concern. So, one such area of critical environmental concern was called Indian Pass, and this is relevant for our case because this Indian Pass was located just 1 mile from the Imperial project. That is why this is important. So, then there was also one more legislation called Surface Mining and Reclamation Act. This is not a federal legislation, this was California legislation. So, Surface Mining and Reclamation Act was passed in the year 1975. So, the major essence of this legislation is it required, this act, SMARA, required an operator to submit a reclamation plan, so that and also financial assurances for reclamation, so that the operator does not just extract the resources and runs away. So, they wanted the reclamation activity to happen. So, therefore, financial assurances for reclamation also had to be provided as per this California's legislation of SMARA. So, beyond that, what we see here is there was 2 other departments that were also very relevant. One was Imperial County Planning and Building Department, and the other one was Bureau of Land Management. So, these 2 departments were also relevant for this particular case. So, what we see here is the claimant, in this case Glamis Gold, they had submitted plan of operations. So I told you, right? So they wanted to have 3 open pit mines, and then they will do the backfiling for 2 of them, and the third one partial backfiling. So whatever the process describing what they were supposed to do or what they had envisaged to do with regard to the mining activities, that was recorded in something called plan of operation, and that was submitted to the relevant authorities, to the Imperial County Planning and Building Department, as well as to Bureau of Land Management, and they were reviewing it. So there were many exploration activities that were conducted, and all of them were approved by BLM, that is Bureau of Land Management. So meanwhile, we can see that the Glamis Coal had spent an enormous amount in securing the environmental permits. It had spent around 18.6 million US dollars in securing the environmental permits as well. So BLM now came up with a draft environmental assessment study or environmental impact report, whatever name you call it as. So this is a draft version. So a draft version was released by BLM. In the draft version, what it stated was it somehow, sort of agreed with the POO that was submitted by the claimant, plan of operations, and it sort of suggested for some mitigation activities, when it released the draft environmental impact assessment or an environmental impact report, it was faced with a lot of criticisms, especially from the Quechan tribes and other Native American tribes on the effect of this project with regard to groundwater, with regard to visual resources, with regard to the cultural significance for these tribes. So basically the Quechan Tribal Committee, what they asked was, so they had requested BLM to withdraw this draft report, and they had asked BLM to undertake a cultural inventory as well, because in the first draft report BLM also stated that the project may have an impact on undiscovered cultural and paleontological resources. That is something it had mentioned in the first draft report itself, but Quechan tribe, the tribal committee wanted BLM to do a inventory of cultural resources before this is done, and they wanted BLM to withdraw the draft environmental impact report, and accordingly BLM also withdrew its first draft environmental impact report. Then it released a new draft environmental impact report. Please note, earlier version was also a draft report and that was withdrawn. Now what BLM had released is also a draft report, not a final report. So this report was, what it stated was, it sort of acknowledged that there will be significant adverse impact with regard to the cultural significance of Native American tribes. So the second draft report stated that the Imperial project will have significant adverse effects on the cultural activities, especially with regard to the physical movement of Quechan tribe as well as spiritual movement of the Quechan tribe and some other cultural significant activities of the Quechan tribe, especially in and around the areas of Indian Pass. So this was recorded in the second draft environmental impact assessment report, right? So even after it had released the new draft, it had received 541 comments, especially from the Quechan representatives of the Quechan tribe. They again did not completely agree with the second report as well, because the second draft report, even though it stated that there will be negative adverse impact for their cultural rights, it also stated that still the best alternative to go ahead with the project is the POO that was already submitted by Glamis Coal. So they sort of accepted the POO. At the same time, they also accepted the negative impact that will happen to the cultural significance of the resources that were there. Right. So now BLM is confused. Now BLM on the one side has agreed with the POO submitted by Glamis Coal. On the other side, Quechan tribal representatives, they do not agree with the way that the project was supposed to go. So what BLM did was, BLM requested for solicitor's opinion, and then the matter was sent to the solicitor. Also BLM contacted certain historic committees, and then it had also sought opinion from those historic committees as well. So now the solicitor was Leshy. Mr. Leshy had given a preliminary opinion initially. So in that preliminary opinion, what he had suggested was, he suggested to evaluate the mining proposal from a new legal standard, that was unnecessary or undue degradation standard. So that is what he had given in the preliminary opinion, and after a much delay he had given his final opinion also, and the final opinion is called as M opinion in this award, or sometimes it is also referred to as Leshy's opinion. So Leshy's opinion or M opinion refers to the solicitor's opinion. So what did it say in the final opinion? So basically the final opinion, the M opinion, stated that the economic project is unfeasible. It is not economically productive. Why? Because the grade of ore that was found in that imperial project is of a low grade. At the same time, if any reasonable environmental measures are imposed on the project, what would happen is in order to in order to implement the environmental measures, then the claimant would have to incur additional expenditures. When the claimant incurs additional expenditures, then the output, the quality of the precious metals that were extracted, then there will be a mismatch. So overall, the economic project will be an unfeasible one and the project will not be profitable one. This is what Leshy had given his opinion, the solicitor had given his opinion. Then finally, based on Leshy's opinion, the M opinion, BLM now releases a final environmental impact study or environmental impact assessment report, and in that final report, now we can see, now right after Leshy had given an opinion, what the Glamis Gold did was, Glamis Gold immediately went and filed a case before a federal court, and then the court also stated that it's just an opinion, there's no cause for you to file a case. It's just an opinion. If the relevant authorities acts on this opinion, then you bring a case. But at this particular juncture, we cannot entertain this case. So the federal court rejected the case that was filed by Glamis Gold. So meanwhile, what happened was, BLM releases the final environmental impact study, environmental impact assessment report, and in that report, they have used the unnecessary or undue degradation standard. Also, if you look at CDCA also authorizes BLM to evaluate the proposal from the perspective of scientific, environmental and scenic consequences using undue impairment standard. So the final environmental assessment report has used the standards of unnecessary or undue degradation, undue impairment standard to evaluate the mining proposal. So based on this, we can also see that the Department of Interior came up with a statement that they are taking back certain acres of land from where the mining activities can happen. So out of which some 9,000 and odd acres of land was taken back, and 6,000 acres of the one that were taken back falls within the imperial project. So basically, as per the Department of Interior statement, you cannot carry on any mining activity with regard to these 6,000 acres. But when the Department of Interior came up with this, it also stated that if anybody possesses a valid mining right from before, that means they respected the existing mining rights. So if you already possess a mining right, then you can undertake mining activity, but no new mining activity can happen with regard to the 9,000 and odd acres of land, out of which 6,000 gets covered in the imperial project also. So then immediately we could see that immediately Glamis Gold had filed a case against this, because the Secretary of Interior had issued a record of decision. This record of decision is also very important from this case perspective, because this will be challenged by Glamis Gold in the investment arbitration. So the Secretary of Interior issued a record of decision relying on the M opinion and saying that this Glamis Gold cannot go ahead with the project. So the POO was rejected. So Secretary of Interior had rejected the POO that is submitted by Glamis Gold, and we could see that Glamis Gold had challenged this before a federal court. And meanwhile, what happened was a new solicitor takes up the office. So what the new solicitor, Mr. Myers, what he does is he rescinds the Leshy's opinion or M opinion because they had used the standard. What was the standard? Unnecessary or undue degradation standard, which was a new standard. Otherwise, until this, earlier projects were evaluated using the standard called prudent operator. So BLM has always evaluated the mining proposal using the prudent operator standard, but for this particular project, what BLM did was it used the standard that was mentioned in Leshy's opinion, that undue impairment and undue degradation standard. So this Mr. Myers, what he stated was that had given rise to too much of controversies. The new standard, the undue degradation and undue impairment had given rise to many controversies, because if you apply this particular standard, there is a very wide scope that is given to the government. Even if a mining operator confirms with all statutory requirement, if the mining operator fulfills all necessary requirements, still the government will get a chance to scrap the entire mining operation by using undue impairment standard. So then since a broad discretion was given, that is why all these controversies came. So what Myers did was Myers rescinded the M opinion. So since M opinion itself is rescinded, the record of decision passed by the Secretary of Interiors, which was based on M opinion, that was also rescinded. So when that was rescinded, then this Glamis Gold had anyway filed a case against the record of decision, right? So what had happened was, when the record of decision itself is rescinded, then Glamis Gold also withdrew the case from the court. So this was the situation. At this juncture, what had happened was, California, the state of California also passed certain bills, Senate bills were passed, that also affected the operation of this particular project. So we will discuss that in the second segment of this video. Right. So as of now, what we discussed in the first segment is only with regard to the federal regulations and the federal measures. So in the second segment, we will continue with the factual matrix of the case, and we will discuss about the California's measures. Thank you.